Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. Well, it is post-Telford, everybody. I am relaxing here with one of my purchases, the Airfix pint glass. So I shall raise a glass to all of you. It's non-alcoholic, but hey, very nice. So welcome everybody. Let's see, who do we have in tonight? Dave, good to see you. Good to see you at Telford as well. Sato Models, good evening. John Christmas, you didn't get the Dora. That's probably a wise move. Rob Sato, Michael Myers, Adrian Hook, Erwin, good to see you from the Netherlands. We have Go For It Painting. Paul Burridge, David Markey, Paulie Gone, see what you did there. Adrian Hook, David Edwards, Ian Ellison, Keith, Gav, Mario, good evening, John Best. So John, It wasn't that it wasn't financially a great outing. I'll talk a little bit more on that in a second. Mark Stott, good evening. Nick Johnson, Mystery Box Nick, good evening. Steve London and James Carnahan. I think that brings me up to date. Apologies if I missed you on the list there. Please do say hello if you're there. Camera's not quite right there. That's a little bit better. And apologies as well because I am just finishing my dinner. But John Alec will be joining me in a little while. So John obviously was first trip over to the UK. His daughter's first trip to Europe. So that was quite a trial by fire. But they'll be joining to give us a bit of a, I guess, a kind of US and US newcomers experience, right? Because it is a very different show, I think, from those held in the US. So I think it'll be good to get his input. And of course, being a Telford virgin prior to this, it'll be good to get that first impression. But I wanted to have a bit of a post-Telford breakdown. I'll show you what I got. I didn't get very much, obviously, because I had very, very limited time. It was fantastic to see all of you that came and said hello at the stand. Man's Model Moments International. Yeah, that's to come. Perhaps when shipping rates get a bit more sensible, if that ever happens. And John has indeed escaped the quarantine cage and made his way back to the US. So now firmly back on freedom soil, back over there. But yes, we definitely need to, if we find ways of sending, I don't know, dehydrated bacon. Can you dehydrate bacon? Probably. It probably ruins it. But no, I had a really, really good time at Telford. It was a very different experience sitting on the trader side rather than going around. So I didn't see the show at all. I didn't see a single club stand. I meant to go and check out Black Rifle. I just didn't get a chance. The only time I was away from the stand, John kindly looked after the stand while I went to a chat that Valeria was given from ICM. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Oh, Moss, you're in. Hello. Yes, you're absolutely right. Just to... oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Chat is moving too quickly for me. It was indeed great to see John. John's a lovely guy. And his daughter, likewise. They're all in the science and healthcare field as well. John's wife is a microbiologist like him, and both his daughters are nurses. So they've kept a very sort of scientific and healthcare based family. So they speak my language, which is great. Oh, and John's in. Hello, and feel free to pop in when you are free, John. So yeah, it was a very, very different experience. And as I said, it'd be interesting to see what John's experience was as that, that first time, and again, coming from the other side of the pond experience. So currently eating air fryer chips. So oven chips that are done in the air fryer. We've actually got an air fryer which has like a rotary basket. It's actually really good. So obviously, house sale is progressing. Fingers crossed, we hope to exchange and move in a couple of weeks. Maybe even less. We will see. All depends on solicitors and searches and all those kinds of things. But I haven't started packing yet, so oh my god, that's going to be a nightmare. I've got a whole bunch of big boxes from the shop. I'm going to go back to the shop tomorrow and get some more come through, so I can pack everything up. I looked at the man cave and I closed the door, and it's just, oh my god, I just don't know how I'm going to face it. I just need to go at it, But you're getting a stream of consciousness here rather than any. I haven't planned anything. I did actually ask Dale if he could. I asked Dale and Luke whether they'd be able to make it. Dale, unfortunately. Well, first of all, he said potentially what time and everything, but his wife is actually out this evening, so he's looking after a 2-year-old and a dog. So I was like, no, that's fine. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it doesn't last long. But I enjoyed my time with my children, especially when they're younger, because the things that kids come out with, I'm sure all of you that have children or have had children will know. They're a very unique perspective, and it's quite entertaining at times, but it's also a hell of a lot of work. So I wouldn't do it again. If I had the opportunity, if I were to meet a, if anything was Maria doesn't want children. I've never had intention of having children, but say something happened to us and I met a young woman who wanted children, I'm like, that's maybe not. Hopefully that will never happen, obviously. But yes, well, wait for yes, John, thanks for that. Wait for the grandkids; they're hilarious. Yeah. Well, my son and his girlfriend have actually gone to Costa Rica. They're in holiday in Costa Rica at the moment, and they decided that they're not going to have children for the foreseeable. They're saving up for a house, and I think that's quite common in a lot of younger, kind of, well, they're millennials. So we'll see what happens. Right. So if Moss is still here, my purchase from the airfix stand, I got pint glass and the Moss-inspired pin. So yeah, obviously put the video up last night, which I was quite surprised at how popular it's been, because you never really have any idea. I didn't know whether people would be interested in a trade view. Show videos are usually quite popular because I think a lot of people that didn't get a chance to go to the show want to see that, and of course my video doesn't offer you any of that at all. So interesting, some of the comments in terms of oh, you shouldn't have included, HMRC rates for mileage, you shouldn't have done that. This is clearly why a lot of people, not a lot of people, but people in the past that have started, not just model shops, but model shops, I think, are a good example of people who start a business because they're passionate about something without really understanding business. You have to account for everything in business. Nothing is free, right, apart from your time. So if you noticed on my calculations, I didn't include time. So obviously that's not true for the likes of Jadlam, Wonderland, Airfix, all those people. They have employees who need paying, whether it's a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So they have staff costs on top of that. So, which of course, even if you're paying like minimum wage, which of course they won't be, but £10 an hour, it's quite a long day, Telford. It's 8 hours on the Saturday for the actual show from 10 till 6. But actually, the traders are there from 8, and quite frequently before that. You've also got setup on the Friday night, so it's an expensive weekend for the big traders. It's not just the small traders. I know I took a small trader view because I'm a small trader, but actually, if you're a larger trader, and especially the middle ground, I think it's probably hardest when you want to grow, right? Which is, I think, really where the IPMS needs to think about their rates, is really in that growth phase, because you really want to encourage businesses going from small to larger. And once they're established, they kind of know their costs, they've got their budgets and all that kind of thing. But getting to that point is difficult. And a small trader can make that choice of, okay, this is my cost. What am I going to do? But if you're trying to grow, for me, because I also had a couple of comments which weren't really appreciated on the video about, oh, it's irresponsible to go by yourself. It's like, well, if you're a sole trader, that's what you are. That you can't just like say, oh, can you come and help me for the weekend, to some random person or your neighbor. Yes, your partner might, but that's not always possible. So small traders do not have that luxury. So the possibility then is you could pay somebody, but that's more cost. So, yeah, it's a bit silly to say that. And things like the HMRC rates are there because they include wear and tear on a private vehicle, or wear and tear on a vehicle. If you can't hire a vehicle for £0, right? So that's what an HMRC rate is designed to reflect. It's all of those other things. It's the insurance, it's the wear and tear on the vehicle, it's the actual fuel costs as well. So yeah, it costs about £50 in fuel, but then if I'd hired a car for the weekend, it'd have been well over £100. So, bit silly. My costings are really the minimum amount because I was very frugal with my accommodation. Most hotels were more than £75 a night there. Certainly all the ones around the convention centre. So, again, people just react. They don't think really all of these things through, which is what I want to try to give a kind of an objective view into what you have to think about as a trader. And a few people made the comments about, well, it's about goodwill and advertising. It's like, yeah, that's absolutely, I think, one of the most valid reasons to actually do Telford as a small to medium and even a large size trader or a manufacturer. I mean, Revell and Airfix don't actually sell anything at Telford. They are there for visibility, which is an entirely different thing, So again, it's why you're going, which was kind of one of the points I made in the video, was if you're going for that awareness, for advertising effectively, and you're going to sell a few things there to mitigate the cost, not to cover the cost, but to mitigate it, absolutely valid. Yeah, and it's a great show to go to for that because there's a lot of people, especially if you're a European business, a small growing business that also sells into Europe, because there are a lot of European modelers there, and that's your kind of your chance to grab their awareness. If you're going to make money, it's a completely different kettle of fish. And everything that you take home is lost potential. So I don't actually envy the likes of Jadlam and Wonderland and the second-hand kit sellers and all those kinds of people. Obviously they feel it's worth it because they go there, but I wonder how much, whether they actually make a profit on it, or whether they mitigate costs or cover costs and then rely on the sort of awareness factor to then boost their sales going on from that. It's an interesting question. But yeah, anyway, got some good feedback from the video. And if any of you guys have any questions or comments, please, as always, remember to put question in capital letters or QQQ or comment in capital letters, so I can pick out the comments from all the rest, because I can't keep an eye on the chat all of the time, as regulars will know. Let me take a sip of this. Very nice. That's a that's a funny one. A friend's grandson asked why we wear poppies, so she explained about respect for the fallen. Later in Tesco's, he said in a loud voice, "Nanny, there are a lot of disrespectful people here." Yeah. My son once, when you're going to the supermarket, it's very busy. He was quite young, I think maybe 7 or 8. I think it was my son. It was either my son or my eldest daughter. We did the thing where, I got in queue and said to them, "Can you go in that other queue?" So that we can, whoever gets there first, and they weren't sure what I meant. So halfway across, they were just like, "You mean be this fat lady?" It was just like, "Oh my God, just come back, just come back." It's just like, oh my God. What's in the glass, Alex? I am drinking the very highbrow Bavaria 0% alcohol-free cheap beer from, of all places, Home Bargains. It's not even Aldi or Lidl. It comes from Home Bargains. It is $2.25 for 4 bottles. So it's like, it's cheaper than Coke. So when I'm at home, I don't drink, principally because I don't like to be doing something and then, have that kind of having just a couple of drinks fug, and then sleepiness and stuff. And it ruins the rest of the evening, basically. If I'm out, I'll have a drink, because it's a social thing. So I'm a social drinker now, really. And the same way, if I'm on a Friday night stream with John, Scale Modeling Live, I'll have a drink as well. Because most of the guys there drink whiskey, and I like whiskey, so I often have a glass with them, sometimes rum. But yes, I am drinking the very auspicious, what was it called again? I can't remember. Bavaria. Yes, very imaginative, that is. Although it's Bavaria, Holland, so I'm not quite sure how that works. Is that a Dutch beer? Yes, it is. As I just said, Bavaria, Holland. So, yes. John Christmas, if you do, again, would you concentrate on your own products or more on models? To be honest, John, I would probably keep the same sort of balance that I did this time. The secondhand kits were great because at the shop, secondhand kits do quite well, but there's limited footfall. Most people coming to the shop, I would say, buy new stuff. So, and I don't have the time at the moment. In a couple of weeks' time, that may change, to put all that stuff on the website. So I got a big order in today, which I have to put on the website. Edward fine molds, some kits you've never heard of, manufacturers. I think Nunu was one of them, which I bought basically because I saw them on the trade website and was like, oh, I have to get that just because it's Nunu. So it's one of the things I've got to do tomorrow is put all of that on the website. So my task over the next couple of weeks, really, when I'm not packing, is to improve my web visibility. That's really, it's no point doing all of the kind of awareness stuff at Telford, and then when people start to look at things again, because they won't for a while, right? Because of, I'm just going to turn that one off. It's a bit glary. There we go. Camera should compensate. That's better. It's a bit more natural. But when they do, and they come to the website, I want it to be as full as possible. So I had an airfix delivery before, and before Telford, and I've had this one from Tiger Hobbies this morning. 3 massive boxes. Largest order I put in for a while, actually. You're quite right, John. They do, and that's exactly what I got. I think one of them was an Audi R8 rally car, which looks really nice. The problem I always have with ordering stuff for the shop is I buy stuff and I think, that looks really nice. Should I get 2 or 3? You know, 1 for me, 2 for the shop, or but I try and resist unless it's a really good deal. And then I can always have them on the shelves, and if they don't sell well, I can always take one off and do a review on it. So, yeah. But yeah, I kind of want to get that whole website side done. But the secondhand kits do well at the shows because I think, as I said to some of you when you came by the stand, I think there are 3 main reasons people go to model shows and to Telford especially. So one is for the bargains, right? Especially on the Saturday, big manufacturers or big retailers, their offers. Now, I used to be a big offer guy back in the kind of 90s or early noughties with Telford. I used to go and pick up some crazy bargains, and they did have crazy bargains, right? Less so these days. So if you noticed, I guess I can give you the trade secrets here, seeing as it's already happened. So Airfix gave us all some Black Friday trade stuff before a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago or something. And it's no surprise that all of those things that you saw at Telford at bargain prices were those kits, right? So it's not like Jadlam and Wonderland, and you think, well, why are they doing the same deals? It's because they all come from Airfix, really, which is obviously them trying to get rid of a lot of that stock. You know, if they've got high quantities of stock, one of the easiest ways, and I mentioned this in my video before, one of the easiest ways for a distribution network business is if you've got overstock, you give discounts to your resellers because they give you an immediate influx of cash. You don't have to wait for customers to actually want it. You can sell it to the trade, and then you can focus on your next thing. So it works well because the retailers or distribution network gets a good deal and provides a buffer in the marketplace, and you get an immediate injection of cash, which then you can look at your next project with. Airfix, of course, also compete with that, which is where it starts to fall down because a lot of traders become wary. So they don't buy that because they know that Airfix will also put that on a big discount, and we can't compete with Airfix when Airfix discount, basically, because they can offer the same sort of discounts to retail as to consumers, direct customers, that they give to retail. So, and they make more money on it. So we obviously have to make a margin. They're already making the margin, you know. So that means that, for instance, I didn't buy a big bunch of that because I knew that the bigger retailers would be doing that. So what's the point? So, but that's one reason people go to shows, is to pick up bargains like that, you know, because it doesn't, for most people at a show, it doesn't matter where that bargain came from, just that they're getting a good deal as they see it, right? I was exactly the same. The second one is to find rare stuff. Yeah, or things they've been looking for and haven't been able to find on the internet or locally or whatever. And I'll give you a good example of kit that I picked up, if you didn't see Airfix and Chill, these are the Airfix bullfinches, which I've mentioned several times that I would love Airfix to re-release all of these. I think with the current climate around model making, with Warhammer and figure painting, I think they would do really well, because I think they would appeal to a market which didn't exist when they were published, that does exist now. So I think actually they get more uptake than, you would get the nostalgia builds for sure, but also you would capture those people who, I think, of a slightly different demographic, let's say, probably a more double X chromosome persuasion, but who, military subjects don't appeal to, whereas, I have started them. Whereas a little one-to-one scale bullfinch, which making it isn't really the thing for those, kind of figure painter, it's the painting it. It's a very different subject and different set of skills. So I'm really looking forward to that. And obviously I'm recording it and I'll show you the video on that, which will be quite different from, a standard build. But that's one of the reasons you can't buy that at a shop, unless you happen to find it squirreled away in the back of an old model shop behind something because it fell down there or something. They're collector's kits, they're rare. So that's the second reason that people go to shows. Somebody's put Scroto, and the dinosaurs. Exactly. Yeah, it's a different market. And I think Airfix have kind of missed the boat a little bit with the dinosaurs, because there are quite a few companies now making dinosaurs, especially around the Jurassic Park franchise. If they'd done the vintage classics around those, the Jurassic World kind of reboot of that franchise, then they could have probably got quite a bit off that. I'm going to take a quick chicken nugget before they get cold. Indeed. Sorry. Did they have the mods? Don't know. I think they are a lot of people's vintage classics, top. I think if they released them, there would be a big kind of nostalgia buy. But if they marketed them correctly, not actually to the modeling community really, but more to that bigger painter, kind of demographic, let's call it, then I think that would be very successful. But they may not have the tools. We don't, we're not privy to that information, unfortunately. I'm just looking to see when the bullfinches were released. They were a 1977 new tool, which that's actually one of the things about this particular box. So the 1977 box is the box. This is an original, because they had the new little star flash there. The boxing didn't really change much. Interestingly, Gun Sangyo reissued them in 1999. So they were released in 77, in 78, in 80, in 83, and then they went missing for 16 years from circulation. Then Gun Sangyo released them in 1999 in a new box, although essentially with the same art. So are they around? Don't know, but that late 70s, early 80s period, they had some. I think those were when the dinosaurs were released as well, late 70s, early 80s. I think there will be some interesting ones. Just having a quick look at the comments just to see that I'm not missing any questions here. Julian Hall, RE painting. If you do like military subjects early in World War I, do you think anyone will do Napoleonic figures like Airfix used to? There are. So one of the things with figures like that is that the what am I trying to think of? You can get 3D printing basically allows you access to a lot of that very easily. And because that's kind of almost associated with the figure painting fraternity, I'm not sure that they would, because I don't know whether there is the same market. Again, as a vintage classic, they probably have the same pull as, you know, the Belvedere, for instance. Hopefully more than the Belvedere, but, you know, that kind of thing. But probably not wider than that. Some companies like Masterbox do some interesting figures. You know, there's a Mexican bounty hunter that they do, and you know, they do figures like that. I think they're 1/16 scale. Correct me, because I don't know. I've got at least 4 of them in the shop, and I don't know quite what the subjects are, but they do a fairly varied range. So it's as with everything, isn't it? Will they get the return on the investment? And I think with 3D printing, having that, I think 3D printing is probably going to fill that gap more, because the people who want to actually make and paint them are more interested in the painting than the making. I think that's kind of my gut feel. Oh, Nick, you've got the Bullfinch and Kingfisher. I'd love the Kingfisher. Color shift paint would be great for the Kingfisher. Well, I mean, the Kingfisher is iridescent more than color shift, but I get where you're coming from with it for sure. It would be a very hard thing to accurately replicate, but it'd be interesting giving it a go, wouldn't it? And it's such a beautiful bird. So yes, Masterbox, indeed they do. I also think I've got a bit of con crud. I seem to be quite Qatari since coming back from Telford, so I blame you guys. Okay, Perry or Victrix or Empress miniatures for Napoleonic. There we go. See, this is why the hive mind is good to have on the comments, because they are collectively, it doesn't matter how good you are, collectively a group will always beat you. So thank you. The Edmund 30. So what do I talk about next? We talk about a couple of the other. As I say, I only got a chance to get away from the stand for Valeria's talk. I'll come on to that in a minute. And also, very kindly, a couple of you looked after the stand, allowing me to go and, one, grab a coffee and a bite to eat, and also to quickly go and buy some kits on the Sunday afternoon when it was very quiet. So that's when I got the bullfinches. I just did kind of one quick whiz. It wasn't even a whiz around. It was just, I went to get the bullfinches. I went to the Edward stand to get some overtrees, and on my way back, I got one more thing. So that's all I bought. So I did get some overtrees. I got the Focke-Wulf 190D11. Because I do like the Dora, not the railgun, John. That's a bit big for me. I got the I-16 Type 10. So kind of the other end from the Dora. The Dora is a very long aircraft. The Plikarapov, I don't know if that's, I'm probably murdering it, obviously, in terms of how I'm pronouncing it, but it's the opposite end of the scale. If I can show you the sprue, it looks like an eggplane. That's the closest I will get to an eggplane, guys. Very, very short little plane. Development of the I-153, of course. And then even shorter wingspan. These are all 48 scale, of course. The X1 Markbuster, which is a lot longer, but its wings are tiny. They're like 1/72nd scale wings. They're about the size of a Spitfire, 1/72nd Spitfire's wings in 48 scale. So they are. It wasn't designed to turn. Oh, question. What is overtrees? Oh, say, that's a good question. I'm assuming, which you should never do, of course. Overtrees are basically just sprues. So because Edward have things in-house and they do a bunch of injection stuff, if they've got more sprues than they want, rather than putting them in more expensive boxes with instructions and decals and all the Profi Pack parts, if they can do Profi Pack, they just put them in a box, a plain white box as you saw there. So that is how they sell them. Slap a label on, and they sell them cheap. Now, of course, you can download the instructions. If you've already got decals, then you've got no issues. Or if you want to do other schemes, perhaps that you've seen a Dora, D11, Focke-Wulf 190, but you don't particularly like Edward's scheme, you can get some aftermarket decals. You're not spending the money on the decals supplied with the kit. You're just getting the plastic. So it literally is just the plastic. Even with that, even with that, it's still a top opening box. So, we had Luke on Airfix and Chill. Come on, Revell. If Edward can do it for Overtrees, then come on, you guys can. And exactly, Michael Myers, eggplane. No eggplanes. Question. In my opinion, is the Revell 1/32 Dora an accurate kit? To be honest, you're asking the wrong person. So unless I'm actually looking at a particular kit, let's say, or a subject that I know and love, unless it's obviously inaccurate, like it has like obvious things that are wrong with it, like the Revell 1/32 Spitfire has post-war bulges in the wings, not the pre-war ones, because, and that all goes back. See, these bits I find interesting when you're researching stuff, because Dunlop stopped making the tires. You had to put the post-war Spitfires got fitted with larger wheels, so they had to bulge the tops. And Revell, unfortunately, I think copied a museum Spitfire. I think it's a Mark 9. Which didn't. They did have bulges in the wings, but not for the wheels. The 9, as in Airfix's kit, the wheel wells were flat. The wing was actually changed for that. So I don't know, because I don't know the Revell 1/42 scale Dora. I've never built it, so I wouldn't know how accurate it is. But there's so much information online now. I always look at that when I go to a particular kit, if I'm interested in accuracy, right? To me, if it looks right, then I'm kind of happy, unless I'm, doing a particular project where I want it to be super accurate. But that's not my particular, it doesn't float my boat particularly. I built the Airfix Cromwell. I didn't give a damn it's got the wrong number of rivets or bolts on the wheels. To me, that's such a minor detail. Some people say, oh, it was glaring. It's like, not really. It's a bolt on the wheels, put some mud on, and nobody will ever know. So, perfectly valid question. It's just I'm not the person to answer it. Know your limits. That's always a good one. Luke got loads of stick at Telford. But that's good, right? It's good for a manufacturer. So when I was sales manager for Northern Europe for Leica, not Leica cameras, but Leica biosystems. So Leica microscopes and all that side cameras were a separate division. And actually the cameras were actually sold off the Leica name. So it's a completely different company. Leica Biosystems supplied histology equipment for biochemistry labs, basically. So now it makes sense, right? It fits into my wheelhouse. And I called myself chief apologist because basically the sales reps used to get me to come around when their customers had a problem, and the customers always had a problem because we had some dreadful supply chain and logistics issues. But the first thing I always did when I went in to see a customer that had a problem is thanked them, because they had given me the opportunity. The fact that they brought me in to complain meant that they were still talking to us, right? So them telling me what was wrong gave me an opportunity to feed that back and fix it. Whereas if a customer just leaves, you never know, right? So Luke getting loads of stick is good because it reinforces the position. His boss was there. So it shows him that Luke isn't just making this up. It's not a personal whim. It's data. It's Gemba evidence. So that's really good. And from what Luke was saying on Monday, it is having an effect. They are listening and they are going to affect changes, which is, I think, all that we can possibly ask for from a company. That is, so I used to be a young ornithologist many years ago, not a twitcher. I never kind of got to that stage, but Martin is absolutely correct there. So there's an accuracy issue there with the airfix kit. A pair of male robins, unless they were fighting, obviously, because they are. Robins look really nice, but they're vicious little bastards. They really are. Question: would you say we are overdue a new tooling tornado in 1/48th or 1/72nd from airfix? From airfix, I don't know. I don't know if the tornado is their kind of plane at the moment. Revell, I mean, the tornado is one of those aircraft that there are a lot of not very good kits of the tornado around. I've built some of them and they weren't very good. I would like to do a nice kit of the tornado. I do have a Revell's 1/32nd scale, which is huge, and I've got as far as putting the ejection seats together, which took quite a while, and I realised just how big it is. I mean, it would be nice, and I think for next year it would be good to see some tornadoes, some really nice tornadoes, because we don't really have very many of them. I don't know whether we'll see one from Airfix. I don't know. Yeah, I think we're likely to see Michu in some form of top opening box. Maybe not like those overtrees I just showed, maybe a flippy box or something. We'll see. You see, a 48 scale Harrier, I think, would be more in keeping with Airfix than a Tornado, to be honest. I think Revell are kind of more invested in the Tornado. I think we're more likely to see something from Revell, but I don't think really next year, because they've got so much on. They are, a lot of the stuff that they announced for this year has slipped into next year. And I think actually that's a good thing with the changes that are coming into effect, because of the fact that Luke has come and rocked the boat a little bit and shaken things up. So I don't know whether they've got the capacity. I just don't know. I will say that, well, actually, I'll answer this next question. Now we know all of Airfix's 2024 releases. Has your opinion on their 2024 releases changed? Not really. So I would say it's definitely, there's definitely an uptick to the end of their releases for the year. I still think the January releases were, and maybe it's slightly unfair, but then this is like an emotional response. It's an opinion. Because the prior 2 years were so good, I think everybody's expectations were very high. We just had the Sea King. The Gannet was great. But when did the Gannet come out? Was that this year or was the end of last year? I can't remember now. Anyway, but the Bulldog, I don't think hit like they wanted it to. And I think, so I'll rewind a little bit. airfix have a habit, like they have with the Sea King, of releasing a less popular version before a really popular version, right? That's kind of a strategy because it gives you a 1-2 punch, right? Which is a good strategy if that first release, the less popular one, can carry itself on the merits of the other parts of the aircraft or tank or whatever it is. And I think the mistake for the Bulldog was the Bulldog doesn't have that pull by itself. So I think doing Douglas Barders as an option in the first release was probably what they needed to get a real, rather than relying on a 1-2, they just needed a big right hook with that to start with. And if you look at the other releases for the year that were the announced releases, it's kind of what I said before. The Liberator was good, but otherwise it's kind of a bit of, I'll use the same word, disappointment. It was a bit disappointing. So I don't think my opinion has changed just because their surprise release at Telford, which we all knew they would do something. I think it's a better release than we expected, but also it's only half of a release for those two. So it's only one release really, and it is really the HC4, right? Because the Licensor is next year. So it's announced now, it won't come in till next year. And on that note, let me welcome in good friend John.
Hiya, Alex. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Other than the potential con crud, I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself? Good trip back?
Yeah, we got back 6:30, which would have been close to 11:30 your time. Yeah, but we made it back, and oh my gosh, I slept like a rock last night.
I bet.
We slept in an easy hotel. That's the last time we'll be doing that. The bed was like a coroner slab, and the pillow was the size of a pincushion, and the air was like dry as the Gobi. It was terrible.
Not a great combo, that.
But we made it. Yeah, it was all good. Alex, it was so wonderful to hang out with you and meet you at last. And
yeah, you too. I'm ashamed we didn't actually spend as much time together as I'd have liked, but I massively underestimated the amount of time and effort that the stand would actually take.
Yeah.
But I know now for next time. So
yeah, you essentially had no break. I mean, you had a very temporary reprieve, but otherwise, you were there, 98% of the time. Yeah.
So here's a question, John, so I can eat my nuggets.
Yeah.
What was your impression of the show? Because your first time in the UK, first time at Telford, it was, and it was a lot of combination of firsts for you. So what was it like?
When we first walked in on Saturday morning, it was really overwhelming. So we got there kind of, we're IPMS members, so we could have walked in at 9 or whatever, but we got there a little bit after 10, which was when the massive bolus of people were coming in. And like that first stand was 3 or 4 people deep. It was overwhelming. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be kind of crazy. we didn't look at my daughter and I. So we didn't look at kind of what the layout was. We went in, we just had kind of no idea. It was just people everywhere. My daughter made the joke. It's like, dude, this is the ultimate middle-aged white man convention. That's
it really
true.
is.
Yeah. And so we were kind of trying to find our way around. But it was actually very pleasant. So one thing that you still excel at is just courtesy and manners and accommodation, hospitality. So the one thing that we experienced the whole time was just how just kind of friendly and nice and welcoming and everybody was. So either the vendors or the clubs, right? Because they're kind of sitting there and they were happy to engage you. And we got asked, oh, yeah, are you from America? And I'm like, yeah, no, we came here. So the clubs were all sort of in the aisles in between. So Saturday was really overwhelming. I think Saturday was the big shopping day for most people. Coming around, trying to get the hot items. So the deals, I guess, were on the Sunday, and I got 2 kits on Saturday and 2 kits on Sunday. Yeah. So there were it was okay to walk around. In other words, it wasn't like you couldn't move around or whatever.
No, I think there's a decent amount of space.
Yeah.
Generally, unless you're around a particularly, like you say, hot item stand where everyone's trying to get one. Yeah.
Like that brush, there was a brush stand. It was in room 3. So as you walked in, it was like to the left and towards the back, and yeah, I got some stuff from there too. There were some good deals. I got some good deals. Some of the tools weren't very. They weren't how should I say, attractively priced, but they had exactly what I was looking for. And something you mentioned earlier, which I agree. I was looking, like the whole weekend, I was looking for the Revell 148th JU52. Nobody had it. I mean, nobody. So I came home and looked, and it's like $100 or something. So the JU88, everybody had the Revell JU88, but nobody had 52. Yeah, I was looking.
You're just giving those away,
They were. There were so many of those. The book stands, the books were actually a lot cheaper than I thought they would be. So that was kind of a good deal. The book stuff. There was plenty of places to buy stuff to eat and drink. The restroom, what you call the loo or the water closet, there were plenty of those. Oh, I think my biggest disappointment was the lighting in the competition room.
Yeah. A few people mentioned that actually.
And so there was a panel of window the whole way, and there was no light coming down. So if you were, especially the figures, they were facing away from the window. So as you walked by them, you really couldn't see any detail. It was terrible.
Yeah, and it's kind of like for competition area, you'd expect the lighting to be good, right?
Right.
Because I mean, the judges are going to need good lighting.
Yeah.
Short of bringing their own like daylight lamps with them, that seems a bit odd. But yeah.
But Alex, you had some good. You had constant traffic at your site.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the problems. That's the ideal problem for a trader to have, right? Is just a constant stream. It's like why I didn't get a real break without people like yourself offering a hand. So which was great, and I said I spent about half of my time on Saturday actually dealing with the stand, and then half talking to either subscribers or channel members or just people that came and had odd questions or particular questions, or were looking for something in particular, which I think is I like you, have done many exhibitions in the past in the scientific arena, and you want to be busy. The absolute death for any salesperson or any person, sales, marketing, whatever, on these stands at a convention is to be standing there and do nothing for 2 or 3 days. It kills you. Because the days seem like they're like 20 hours long. Your feet are killing you because you just seem to be standing still in one place, and you see people doing flamingo, hopping from one foot to the other and stuff. So yeah, I couldn't have asked for much better. Really. I could have planned better, for sure. I could have taken what did somebody say, a sack truck or something like that. You have these collapsible ones, which I thought I wish I'd brought one as soon as I got there. I'm just like, God damn it. Because now I got to haul these things. I was just unlucky that where I was almost equidistant from the 2 entrances I could use.
One thing that was nice, although you were at the end, you were right next to a passageway.
Yes.
And Airfix was right on the other side. So, when we were standing there, sitting there, you had people constantly coming by to either stop or loop around right through that little gap and come to see Airfix. So, yeah.
So it's so how does it compare to the sort of US shows you've been to in the past?
So the only thing that would compare to that are the IPMS Nationals. So our yearly, which I think last year was in Vegas or something. I think next year it's in Wisconsin or something. I don't know how they pick that.
I think I'd have preferred with Las Vegas to
sure.
Wisconsin. Not that I have anything against Wisconsin, but if you're going to go to a show, Las Vegas seems to be the place to
sure.
go.
And ours are very car heavy. So that's another difference.
Yeah.
Was, I would say 80% was military, 10% sci-fi, and maybe 10% cars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a very different demographic here in the US. Yeah, here in the UK or in Europe, I would say in general. A couple of questions or comments that come up. Alex, I think you feel conflicted by the Northrop Gamma. I've actually looked up the Northrop Gamma. I don't think it looks too bad. It's not that. It's quite long. It's weird looking. It's got those stupid spats, which make it look goofy, but that's not an airplane. I'm not conflicted by that. I would model a Northrop Gamma. It's also a real plane. Not like those goddamn egg things.
Yeah.
There was a question that I saw before. Michael Myers. Were there any Spitfires in American service? I have a kit without decals, but I have plenty of American markings in my decal stash. There were. So the 124th Airfix Spitfire Mark 9 actually had a US option in it. I think it was a med one, like in a kind of desert scheme, with the roundels painted over. So yeah, for sure. If you look up online, Google it as it has become a phrase, you will find American Mark Spitfires. Absolutely. They ran all types of different ones as well, depending on what mark you've got. They did photo reconnaissance ones even. So yeah, you've got plenty of scope for sure. Another question here. Do you think Airfix might re-release their 1144 airliner kits, even if as vintage classics? This is another one that a lot of people have asked for and has been kind of cycled around. I'm not sure where those molds are, or how many of those molds they still have. But I think if they have them, I mean, why not? They've done things like the Bassett. Actually, I got a couple of those in today. You know, I'd love to do the Comet that the Nimrod was based on. They've got the DC-10. Yeah, they've got a whole bunch. And I think 144 airliner kits seem to be fairly underrepresented generally. There are a couple of Eastern European manufacturers that do them. Revell does quite a few of the more modern ones, you know, the Airbus A320 and stuff. But in general, I don't think the civilian airliner or the civilian kind of subjects in aircraft are very well represented. And I think I said this on Beyond the Box, they seem to be expensive for what you get as well, you know, compared to military stuff, which probably just reflects the numbers that they sell, you know. So I think it's possible, but who knows?
Oh, right. It was in Vegas, I think, last year. So Jim clarified the Nationals were in Wisconsin this year.
Ah, right. Okay.
Where they are next year. That's funny. Yeah, but that's the comparator. Yeah.
John, question: did you get your Mastiff 2 model, John Eric?
I did, from Alex. Yes.
Yes.
I'll be doing an unboxing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
The end of Sunday, when we went to the car and said goodbye, I said, well, you know, at least the Mastiff is a nice small model to go with all these other models you got, and presented in the 4-inch deep, massive thing.
It was the biggest box, man. A little cold, but yeah. Oh, surprise.
Yeah. It's a chunky beast. And that thing is full as well.
Cool. Yeah, I've had to open it.
Oh yeah, it's. I showed somebody in the shop a while back, and it just packed to the brim. It's just like this. I think there's like 3 sprues of all of the slatted armor, you know, that goes around the sides. I'm just having a quick look for other questions. Oh, yeah, there's Jim's.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Jim. It was good to meet you. And didn't really get to chat, but it's often the way at Telford that you'll see people, and it's great to see them and say hello and stuff. And you mean to get back to them, but you get distracted because you meet other people. I saw, again, an old friend of mine, Phil Stachinkas, incredibly talented modeler, sculptor, painter, used to be a professional painter, worked for Games Workshop. He actually was telling me last year how he left Games Workshop and how, you know, he was actually working for Forge World and as a sculptor, and you know, saying he'd been kind of doing his own stuff and things. And this year it's like, I've gone back. So I got to meet him very early on. Meant to catch up with him. You know, we said we'd catch up, and of course, you know, you get to packing up and think, I never did manage to get hold of Phil again. So next time you're across, definitely get a bit more chance to chat. Steve London, Alex, you mentioned that you broke even at Telford. I would say that's a good result for 2 days exposure to the market. What's your thought? Yeah. So as I was saying before, and somebody mentioned this previously. So when I said I broke even, I meant I took as much as I spent. Now, that doesn't make it profitable, of course, because that doesn't account for the cost of acquiring, you know, the second-hand kits and all that sort of stuff. But it was more than I expected, to be honest, because I was doing it for exposure. So I was very happy with kind of like the result, if you like. It's really when I got back and started looking at, you know, with that enthusiasm of just like, you know, what am I going to do next year? Could I go bigger? and looking at it, and it's just like, well, hang on a minute. If I get double the size of stand, it's going to cost me 260% of the cost. It's like, what? And then looking further into it, it's like, and if I go even bigger, it costs even more. And it's like, how does that work? And it's balmy. I don't get it. And actually, the rates that I showed are 2023 rates. The rates have actually gone up for 2024. Sorry, 2024 rate. The rates have gone up for next year for 2025. So like over $3,000 for the biggest stands. So
wow,
yeah, which is a lot.
It's a lot. God, that's $4,000.
Yeah. And as I say, and I don't have staff costs or any of that. Now next year, if I did go bigger, because I've already asked Maria, saying, next year you should come and we should have bigger stand, blah 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 blah. If I can convince her of that, obviously I don't have to pay Maria. Only in favors. So that's possible. Then it's the additional cost of the stand and stuff. Or, as several other people have said, maybe team up with another trader. I did also think of taking, well, what if I got 2 single stands? One for Man's Model Moments shop and one for the YouTube channel. There's 2 distinct entities.
Okay.
Now that would be cheaper, which doesn't make any sense, right? There shouldn't be loopholes like that, because the IPMS shouldn't be able to refuse that, because they're 2 distinct entities, right? One's a business, one is a YouTube channel. Yes, they're run by the same person, but I'm sure if Revell said we want a Revell stand and we want a Carrera stand, they would allow that. So there should be no reason that they should do that. But of course, they would get less money from 2 single stands than they would with 1 double size one.
A big one.
Yeah. But it shouldn't be the same, because they're the same space, right? The space should be the same rate, whatever it is. And that's what's wrong with their pricing. And then maybe, some discounts for people just getting in. But
yeah, it should be additive, not synergistic.
Exactly.
Right? 1 plus 1 equals 2, not 1 plus 1 equals 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's at the moment it's 1 plus 1 equals 2.62.
Oh my gosh.
1 plus 1 is what 4.62 or something. It's like, well, hang on, that's insane. But anyway, so yeah, I think it is a good result, but it will depend on the next couple of months if I do see that increase in the shop website visits, because I can tell how many people visit shop regardless of whether they spend anything. If that goes up, and I can tell where that traffic comes from, and it seems to be from Telford, and all companies do this, right? This is the main thing that we used to do post show analysis when I was in science, and I'm sure, John, you've done the same. What's our return on investment? And in the scientific arena, I must say there was a big move away from shows, because a lot of companies just looked at it and said, why are we here? And a lot of the reasons were, well, we have to be here because Roche are here, our competitors. And it's just like, that is not a good reason. It's like, if the only reason we're here because our competitors are here, then we should just get out. If we're not getting extra customers, if we're not getting extra awareness, this is just an expense center. So just cut it. And that's what we did. There was a show called The Lab Show, which was last held, I think, in the Excel Centre in London, or maybe the NEC. And it was an absolute disaster. But I mean, in the 90s, scientific shows were all the rage. And people started asking those questions, and they just started cutting, and the bottom fell out of it almost overnight. So I think they do need to take note of that, because the world is continuously changing. And if we don't, look after those things, we'll find ourselves in some unpleasant places, because nobody wants these shows to die. Right. I said I had some things, and John very kindly looked, John and your daughter as well. So Is she still sleeping, or is she?
No, apparently she's awake. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
She took the day off today. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she deserves it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you both very kindly looked after the stand
Oh,
for me to and listen to Valeria's talk at ICM, or Valeria from ICM's talk. That should be brilliant. So she told me several things. I mean, well, firstly, I didn't expect ICM to be there, and I think it was fantastic that they were there. I think it shows their kind of commitment to the industry, and kind of their spirit. They said a couple of things. So one of the things that a lot of people have talked about with ICM is how soft their plastic is. Now, I personally don't mind soft plastic. I don't mind the airfix plastic. I don't mind ICM plastic. I find it bonds very, very quickly. It holds detail well, and it's not like it flexes and stuff. But a lot of people don't like how soft it is. They prefer kind of Tamiya as the kind of standard. But they've listened to people, and they're changing the formulation of their plastic. So that, for me, it obviously won't happen overnight. But again, as I said before, you can only judge a company on how it reacts to feedback, like Luke is changing at Revell. I think that's pretty good. The other thing is, so a few things actually. The production, they gave a couple of presentations. One was their standard sort of presentation they give to all of their distributors. So a bit more corporate, kind of showing everything. They have a fantastic facility. It's really good. And then Valeria showed another video, which was one of the reasons that we were asked not to film in there. It was because it was very personal, which she gave as part of her it was made for her father for his 50th birthday. It was kind of a very personal view of the company from, different people's view. And you got to see a lot more behind the scenes stuff. So their production works 24/7, which I was kind of a bit floored by. I don't know of any other model company. I don't think Airfix works 24/7 in production. The Indian production, obviously. I don't think Poland, when Revell get their stuff injection molded, works 24/7. I'm pretty sure that both companies would just say, we need 5,000 impressions of this kit. They send it to their production facility. The production facility works whatever their normal schedule is and slots into that schedule. And when those 5,000 are done, they send them back. So really, it was interesting insight. Obviously, they do everything on site, but they actually built their current building because they had outgrown the other one. So rather than move in somewhere, they just built a new building. So again, I think one of the reasons that ICM appeals to me so much, and I think a lot of Brits, is that they have this very kind of can-do attitude. It's a family business. It's about 150 odd people. The war hasn't stopped them. They outgrew their building, so they built another one. She said every time they got a new injection molding machine, she had a bottle of champagne and she was showing all the different corks, like, first one, second one, third one, showing pictures of all of these huge injection molding machines being craned into the building with these massive power lifters. They got the CNC stuff there. One of the things that astonished me actually is obviously ICM figures, I think, are pretty much up there at the top of the game. They're all hand sculpted, so they're not done with CAD at all. They're created as physical miniatures, and that's quite. It certainly was the standard. Not so much these days. Mostly done in CAD. But the other things is that generally when a sculptor sculpts a model, and this is true for like Warhammer and all sorts of stuff, they will do it in a larger scale for the physical stuff. Now everything in Warhammer is done in CAD, but they would do it in a larger scale. So they might do it in 1/16 scale, and then it would be scanned and miniaturized and produced in different scales. Their sculptor, who must be an incredibly talented guy, sculpts all of his stuff at 1/35 scale. So the figures that you get were sculpted in that scale, which to me was just, my mind just went, it's like, it's incredible. That's not true, Moss. You can do by CAD. So a lot of digital sculptors, there's a couple of different programs that you can use for CAD. I can't remember which way round it is. There's Blender, and then there's another one which I can't remember. One is really good at doing like angles and armor and physical stuff. The other one is really good for curves, and it's in that most figure sculptors do their CAD. Yeah, that's one.
And ICM had many copies of their catalog. I grabbed one. Yeah, a very nice catalog.
Yeah. And what was the other thing? Got the sculpture, the plastic. I just did see a comment there or question from Craig. Yeah. If standardized the plastic across manufacturers, don't you think we'd lose an element of modeling? So their plastic will not be as hard as Tamiya's. So they're changing the formulation, they're making it a little bit harder, but it won't be the same as Tamiya. It'll still be, probably softer than most people would, not most people, but a standard Tamiya modeler might want. But I think the fact that they're listening and changing something without necessarily just cowing to, yes, we're going to do exactly this, because then I think you do lose some of the personalization. Although I think, to be honest, most people would like Tacom to become a little bit more standardized rather than the, granite that they currently produce.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So, I think you're absolutely right. I think I commented with this when I was discussing this with a few people on both Saturday and the Sunday. That blitz spirit in ICM is very much the kind of thing that I think is very appealing to the British mentality.
Yeah.
I think ICM also, I was missing some parts from the kit, and they sent me the whole kit within a week. I was missing some parts from March 12 Spitfire airfix, took 3 weeks to send me 2 parts. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we all have our anecdotal experience, and it does tend to not cloud our judgment, but it tends to be very powerful on an individual basis. I mean, ICM do have a no quibble policy about parts. And Airfix has Hornby. I always get them mixed up because they begin with H. Has Hornby customer service. So I know Moss and I know Nigel have both said that they've got excellent customer service. Other people will say they've got terrible customer service. Personally, mine's been mixed. I've had good experiences and bad experiences. And again, one of the things I think that people prize is consistency. So it's difficult, I think, judging any company. It's one of the reasons in that video I did on what's the best modeling company, I didn't include customer service because it's so subjective.
Yeah.
It's, they sent you a whole kit for, within a week. Somebody else could have had the same thing, and for whatever reason, they only get sent a part. It takes a couple of weeks, and they have a poor experience. I mean, I'm not saying that is the case or would happen. I'm just saying it's difficult to know, right? What if the mail company loses something? It's happened for me for several times, sending stuff, where the mail company has damaged something, or they've uh, literally put it in the bin when somebody was in holiday. So it got thrown away. Returned it to me. I've had that, undelivered. And it's like, well, that's great. But now I've got to send it out again. So yeah, it can be a bit subjective, I think. Sure, Dale, that the figures, yeah, it was probably I think 5 years ago much less common. But I mean, Phil, you mentioned Phil Stachinkas. One of the reasons he was the last physical sculptor that Forge World had at Games Workshop. So all the people coming in didn't do any physics. They never built even a Warhammer model. They never put a Space Marine together. So they do everything digitally in CAD. SketchUp, Blender. I can't remember. It'll come to me probably after the stream. But one of the programs, the very popular sort of main digitally sculpting programs, is great for organic surfaces, but I believe it's an absolute sod to learn. So those guys are in quite high demand because to learn the program is one thing. To be a good figure sculptor is another, and you've got to have both of those skills. I also know it's possible because I actually commissioned a guy on Fiverr to sculpt me a Johnny Johnson for my Spitfire. So the good thing about it, of course, is that they can send you a CAD file, a picture of the CAD file, a JPEG and stuff, and you can say, that's not quite right. Can you just do this and that and whatever? Advantages and disadvantages, right? Let's see. Maya, Autodesk, 3ds Max, and Blender. Can we do what? Yeah, it's not one of those. I can't remember what it is. Maybe it's Autodesk. I don't know. It's some IT gobbledygook. Oh, Nick says, Alex, how can I PM you? I may have a JU52 that John Alec can have for the cost of postage to the USA. Just get in touch through the channel email address. If you go to info on the channel info page, you have to click show more info, I think, but it will display the email address there. You can also get in touch with the shop. It's the same email address, if that's easier. So.
And Nick, the same with mine. If you go to my info page, it has my email there. So yeah, happy to connect.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you don't need to contact me. Contact us both, just in case.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so just on ICM. So the other thing is paints. So I've been talking about paints a lot recently. I've been, you'll see here, I've been doing a lot with ICM paints. a lot of mixing of paints, different ratios. This is I got a new colorimeter. This is a little, just to show you guys. Let's see if I can get the screen. You can't really see, it's not picking it up. But this is a colorimeter. So basically it scans, so you put this on, it illuminates the sample from like a 360-degree diffuse lighting. It has a calibration chit in the bottom here, so it can self-calibrate, and that's the important part, right? So you get consistent and reproducible results, as with any scientific thing. And that allows you to compare to color standards, because what I did previously was scan everything with a standard desktop scanner, which is fine, but it's not calibrated to anything. So your results are internally consistent. You just can't compare them with anything else the rest of the world, which is fine for yourself. But as soon as you want to do like, oh, I want to do a federal standard color, then you need something that's calibrated. So a bit of a segue there, but ICM paints anyway. So obviously you saw there were ICM paints, the full 80 paint set and individual paints available at Telford. So the good news is those are actually going to be available in the UK in a couple of weeks, and I will be stocking them.
Oh, nice.
So, which means that I've got to put 81 new entrants onto the web page. I'm just thinking about that. That's the first time that's actually come to me. Damn. But that's great news. Yeah, ICM paints. I'm actually going to my next video on the paints. We'll be talking a little bit more about this and about how you apply that and the knowledge of the LAB values. So just going into more depth about actually how you get the values from the colors, what you can actually do with them. So I sort of skimmed over it in the last video. People asked how I do various bits of it, how I create the graphs, where I get standards from. So I'm going to go into all of that, and I'm going to redo the RAF colors, showing you how I did that. And I'm also putting a constraint on myself to use a limited palette, because I think I used like 18 colors out of the range to create those 12 RAF colors, which I think is not actually that useful to people, because that's, you know, a lot of paints just to get, you know, 50% less. So I'm restricting myself. I'm trying to get it down to 10. So with just 10 paints, you can mix all of those colors. And I'm doing a similar one for the Luftwaffe. Those will be the next couple of videos out. So a lot of ICM stuff. So it'll be useful to have those when the ICM paints come to our shores, because I can actually put together then with the individual paints little sets, you know, man's model moments mixes or something, allowing you to mix all of those RF colors. So I can have an RF set, I can have a Luftwaffe set, and they'll just be those, you know, 10 stroke 12. I haven't decided, because the Luftwaffe one, I think I'm going to do the 15. I'm going to split the Luftwaffe one into two, because there's 15 sort of like the early war, mid-war colors. And then at the end of the war, it gets really, really messy. There's like 3 or 4 versions of each color, like RLM 81 and 82. I think there's like 7 colors between those two, you know. Got really messy because the standards kind of slipped. There were different factories had different availability of stuff, so they relaxed things, and it was just, you know, it wasn't up to normal German operational standards. No excuse, just because your country's been completely destroyed, you know. But yeah, shortage of ingredients and things, so it becomes a bit of a mess. So if I'd tried to do everything, it would have been like a monster thing. So
did you sell a lot of the ice? You had some ICM paint sets there. Did you? How did those go?
Really well, actually. I think I sold about half of them. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I sold a lot of the paint sets. So I wish I had the full sets and the individual ones as well, but obviously they were available. So, you know, it's from a customer point of view, you know, you guys were well served, I think. And you know, I spoke with Valeria about the paints, and also the new importer of those. And we got in touch, and I've got his card and stuff to get all that sorted. Because it's a bit difficult if you don't know the ICM paints. Of like, well, are these any good? You know, what can I use them for? I don't really know what these colors are, all that kind of thing. ZBrush. Dave, thank you very much. That's the one. ZBrush and Blender. Those are the two. So Blender is the one that's good with shapes, because I think you can make a shape and then you can extrude it, and so good for making vehicles and parts and things. ZBrush. Yeah, ZBrush is a very organic one. I think you start with kind of a blob, and you can push it and pull it in the same way that you can with clay or, you know, modeling putty or whatever. Excellent. I see, again, told you, hive mind. It's always better. Always better than the individual. Blender's learning curve is more like a learning cliff. Yes. I would love to be able to do Blender. But again, and I had some 3D designs made for me, which is a tangent which may come back in maybe next year. We'll see. I'll just say that I used to work for a games company as a rules writer, and that games company folded. But the rules I've kind of still gone over, so there may be something happening on that in the future. Unfortunately, that was through Fiverr as well. Fiverr is great for finding freelancers to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I found a freelancer who designed the stuff I wanted for the right sort of price. We had a good relationship. Guess where he's located? Russia. So as soon as the invasion happened, that got cut off because PayPal embargoed them. So yeah, I lost my sculptor, which was
lost your Fiverr guy.
Yeah, real kick that was. There's a question for you, John. Did you fill your spare suitcase?
Oh yeah. So I had to, the suitcases, they have that extra zipper where it expands it, right? Nope, got them all. I ended up with 4 kits, but I had books and tools. It was all good. Yeah.
Excellent. Did you have to pay excess baggage at all? Was it overweight, or were you good?
No, it was included in the airfare. So it was, because it's like $75. It was $75 per bag each way. Mm-hmm. So that was $150. And then so if I did the cheapie ticket, you had to pay for the luggage, and then you couldn't pick your seats, and you had the last boarding zone. So we paid extra, or I paid extra, I should say. Yeah.
That bit where everybody else is on the plane, it's like, right, okay, if you can find some space in the wheel wells or something, you guys can get on.
Oh, it's terrible. Everybody stuffs them, the jackets, right? Everybody stuffs their jackets up there. Yeah. And people are trying to put their luggage, and
I always wait with my jacket, if I can, until people have finished with that stuff. Because the other thing is, of course, if you put your jacket up there, then people are putting stuff. By the time you get to go off the plane, your jacket is stuffed somewhere like up in the ceiling of the aircraft. It's just like, that's no good. No. Put it in last. Wait till everybody's done their big stuff.
Yeah, it's got wheel grease on it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nick figured it out. So we can
she did. She did. Okay. He did. She did. Sorry, I was going to share my page and show them, but in fact, actually, I'm going to do that anyway. So let me share this screen. Okay. So if you see here, okay, this has got some Vidic stuff that you guys won't see, Chanalytics, but this is the important part here. And you can see here, you can click more and more on, and this is on any channel, not just mine, brings you up the little bio, if somebody's written a bio, and then links. And if you go scroll down there, so it's obviously got all of my shop and social media stuff, but then you've also got view email address. And if you click that, it'll then show you email address. So we normally don't say our email addresses out loud or put them in the chat and stuff to prevent bots and things getting hold of them.
Yeah.
But that's the way to do it.
I think YouTube stops it anyways. If you try to communicate outside the channels, yeah.
Okay. Hobby time. Messaged you, but got no reply. Messaged me or John?
I think it's me.
Okay.
Yeah, I travel with a very different phone. I don't travel with my iPhone. I travel with my Android. Yeah. I didn't have Discord installed.
Yeah, I was trying to get hold of you on the Friday night, and
Sorry about that, man. Yep.
I got your reply today. And it's like, no, that's no worries.
Sorry.
All good. We worked it out.
It all worked out.
Is your TB2 finished yet, John?
No. I have to touch up the boo-boos that I made. Yeah.
Okay. Righty-ho. Just looking, making sure, because I'm quite a bit behind with... Okay, I think I'm up to date. If I've missed any of the messages or questions that you guys have had, please put them again, because I have missed them. Okay. The other thing that ICM said is, so talking about like collaboration with other companies, like they've been collaborating with Revell, is that they are going to be doing some subjects next year where it doesn't make sense for them to tool something because there's already something out there appropriate. Where it fits into their range, like I'll give the example in a second, but they'll usually add something of their own to the kit. So they'll always add something. They're not going to just rebox something from somebody else without adding their own parts. So for the Revell 135th Leopard, it was their tank crew set. And another little tidbit for you guys, the guy sitting on the tank with the pipe is actually Valeria's uncle. He's a tank commander in, I can't remember. But on the front lines anyway, in Ukraine. For the 172nd scale kit, it was the photo etch. And they're going to be doing next year an F-16 Ukrainian service with and they're going to mold all of the additional weapons, because nobody does an F-16 which of the right version, which has all of the weapons that the F-16s are using in the Ukraine. So I thought that was an interesting little piece of information that they gave us there as well. Right. So anybody else have any comments on Telford, on anything that you particularly enjoyed this year or thought was different? I quite liked the fact, apart from obviously John's caveat with the lighting, and I didn't get to see the competition, but I liked the competition not being in the main halls. I think it makes the flow of the halls better. Obviously, we had larger stands from Revell and some companies we've not seen there before. I can't remember the one that was just across the way from me, but it had a lot of stuff. Apparently, they'd not been before. They had John Christmas's Dora that he didn't buy. It's only £700, John. Come on.
The big bugger.
Yeah, the big metal Dora in 35th scale, which I think Luke said is going to be his retirement. He said it would take him 10 years to buy all the accessories for it. TMC, the model company or something. Yeah, that's right. I thought Revell's stand was pretty good. And I thought it was interesting what Revell was saying about their blog post said it, and maybe if you spoke to Luke as well. The Hunter T7 that they're doing, they had to retro engineer their own kit because the CAD that they had, it was on CAD, it was very early CAD, but all of those early CAD files were stored on physical media because there was no cloud then. So it's all on CDs. And they said for any kit, there'll be like 4 or 5 CDs that have all the CAD files on it, which gives you an idea of the size of those. And they said they just don't know where they are. They've got an archive of thousands of these CDs, so, which obviously weren't labeled very well. So they don't know where they are. And if they got them, there's no guarantee that the the files can be trusted, or that they would work on, whatever software they've got at the moment. So I thought that was interesting that they just said, well, it's going to be faster if we just retro engineer our own kit, which is what they've done. So they've scanned their own kit to remake T7, and it was always designed with the idea of, the T7 in mind, because the front piece is separate, like the nose section. So yeah, that's I thought that was an interesting piece from Revell. And the other interesting piece, of course, was the Gloucester Meteor. Each of those engines, so it gets 2 full complete engines, are going to be in that 1/32 scale Meteor. And they had some 3D printed versions at the stand. I think each has 38 parts, something like that. Plus you've got the little stands to display them on. So it gives you a whole load of options if you want a diorama, a workshop scene, something like that. So I think the direction that Luke is taking that team, and he is only, of course, aircraft and space, but I think that's fairly good. It seems like a very positive set of moves. They also have the F-35 there, which looks pretty nice. And I know a lot of people groan inwardly at another F-35, but the F-35 is going to be around for a long time. Probably, for the rest of my life, it'll be around. It might not be, because a lot of the advantages of the F-35 are the networking capabilities of it, the ability to coordinate with other services, its sensor suites and stuff, and all these things can be upgraded over time. So, it's not the best dogfighter, it's not the best bomber, it's not the best EW aircraft, but it can do all of those things in stealth configuration, and it can liaise with others. And then you've got the Loyal Wingman program, which will expand its capabilities. So, as Luke said, they have to have one in the range, really. Otherwise, they're missing out on a potential segment of the market for a long time. So, I like the Copper State models. I haven't. Yeah. I didn't see them.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't see anything. I'm still got to see the videos.
Yeah, they had a stand. It was towards the back wall in the middle hall, I think. Their stuff is just overpriced.
Yeah. Michael Masters, I've enjoyed all the post-Telford videos on YouTube. Yeah, I have to actually get to watch some. Yeah,
I have to catch up on them. I watched yours today, Alex. It was great. Yeah.
I'm waiting for yours, John. So.
Thank you.
Steve London says, question, I couldn't make it this year, but was Zucchimura in attendance? Any new releases?
See them.
I don't think Zucchimura themselves were there. Any new releases? Now, one of the traders, Tiger Hobbies, does Zucchimura kits. Let me have a little look. I don't know about new ones, but they certainly have some restocks of things like the Raiden and Phantom. I don't stock Zucchimura at the shop as a standard, but I can order them. And principally, the reason I don't keep them in stock is because I don't have the footfall to justify a Zucchimura kit. Most people wouldn't buy a Zucchimura kit. And the sort of regular models that I have coming in, if they wanted that kit, I could be like, yeah, I can get it for you in a couple of days. So, am I going to have £100 kit sitting on the shelf that, a person might buy once every 2 years? No. But if somebody particularly wants one, I can absolutely get them in. But I don't know of any new releases. So speaking of Tiger Hobbies, so I did invite Gary who's the owner of Tiger Hobbies, who's one of my suppliers, and he couldn't make it, unfortunately, but he did give me 3 things that he said I can quote him on the general state of the show, which I thought were all pretty valid. One that I mentioned in my video was the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi situation for the traders. I know the Wi-Fi signal in Telford in general is bad, or well, the 4G signal is bad, the mobile signal. The Wi-Fi in the hall is bad, but they do have a dedicated Wi-Fi network for traders. And actually, the signal strength on it most of the time was pretty high. The thing was, it was super unreliable. And it was killing a lot of the business for some of the traders. So Wonderland models could only take cash for a large part of Saturday. Gary could only take cash for most of Saturday, I believe. I had an absolutely fine connection up until I returned from Valeria's talk. So about 3:45 on Saturday and Sunday morning, where I couldn't connect at all. It wouldn't let me in. I had to go out the door towards the toilets to be able to connect, and then had to rush in to process a sale. So they really do need to get that sorted. If you're paying £3,000 for a stand, you expect to be able to use your cash machine, your card machine rather. The second thing was, or the second and third things really related about organization. So one of the things that you guys don't see, kind of I didn't highlight it in the video, but everybody gets the same time to set up at Telford. So the doors open for the traders on the Friday, and basically it's a free-for-all. So everybody can just come in. So the people like Airfix and Ravel, Jadlam and Wonderland have to negotiate the hall with everybody else as well. Now, I didn't arrive until 6 o'clock in the evening, when it was kind of nice and quiet. I could set up. I set up, took me about an hour and 10 minutes, an hour and a quarter. And then I went to the hotel, which was fine. But I can imagine in a day when everybody's milling about together, it's chaos, right? Whereas if the big guys could get in first, set up their big stands, in relative quiet, then it would help with everybody else coming in and doing that as well. And then at the same time as all of this, the club stands are also setting up when the traders are also doing stuff. So it's just, if that was organized better, it would flow better for everybody. So, and it would be a lot safer, right? Because there wouldn't be people milling around, because you can drive cars or vehicles into the halls early on. Which, if you can imagine, if people don't have cars, like little sole traders or two stand kind of traders like me are going around, and there's cars whizzing around as well, it's not a very good, potentially not a very good situation. So I wanted to, as I say, I did reach out to Dale and to Luke as well. I didn't expect either of them to come in, because I know they've just finished with the show. They're probably sick of Telford. They want to relax a bit before, get back to their day jobs before, thinking about that again. But I wanted to get, some idea of what others' viewpoint were in the same situation, that it wasn't just, we weren't just getting a monologue, basically. That's a kind of nice one. Aaronville. Fairly new to modelling. Will do my first kit soon. Anyway, I saw the competition at Telford and saw lots outside in the main arena. Excellent ones. I'm glad that you've... so firstly, Aaron, welcome. And I'm glad that it was... Well, from what you say, it sounds like it was quite inspiring. Which, for me, my first time at Telford, that's the impression I got. Some people, I think, find it daunting. The standards that you see at some of these competitions, you just think, I could never achieve that. Whereas I always think, well, I find them inspirational rather than daunting. I know not everybody's like that, but I think if you're not going to start and create a Telford winning model unless you're some sort of modeling prodigy. But the important thing is you get pleasure and enjoyment and fun out of the hobby and build towards what you want to do. And if competing is what you want to do, if you keep chipping away, keep going at it and just watching YouTube videos, there's lots of different YouTube videos available. It's one of the great benefits these days. Then you can build to that, I think, easier now than ever before. John, you surprised me. Darren spent way too much money. No, I can't imagine that he spent too much money. So John Christmas was, I think, one of the last time I saw him at the show, he was hulking a huge, what was it, about 20-inch square bridge diorama piece, which seemed to weigh about as much as 2 paving slabs towards the car. So right, just looking through. Alex will be in touch. Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody wants to get in touch through the shop, there is actually a little chat function there. It does actually email me those chats as well. So, or at least it's supposed to. It can be a bit hit and miss, but there's another avenue as well. Specifically for the shop, I would say if you're getting in touch with the channel, always use the email because it's much more reliable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other thoughts from yourself, John?
It was well worth it. So glad we came. We just really enjoyed it. Absolutely worth it. It was great to meet you all. That was the big plus. Yeah.
For me, the highlight of Telford, and I think what made this Telford for me as a trader was not the actual, selling bits off the stand. It was the conversations I had with people who bought things, and the questions that they had, whether they were about the paints, about sprue goo, about, the thinners, about whatever it was, some about kits, and all of the people who've watched the videos, who are channel members or subscribers, which is, I had so many people coming up saying, "You don't know me, but," it's like,
excuse me.
I would say you don't have to lead with that. It's fine. You can just say, "Oh, I watch your channel or whatever." That's fine. I don't mind being approached at all. I know some people, maybe don't, but I absolutely, don't mind. So you don't need to premise it or put it in any sort of context. I'll, take it completely. So, but that to me was the best bit about it, because it was kind of like part of my favorite part of Telford anyway, was meeting people. But when you're going around the show, it's very hit and miss, right? Because you can be going around and somebody else can be going around as well. So just because you've been to the same stand doesn't mean you were there at the same time. So you can actually end up missing people completely. Whereas having a stand, I saw people go by and spot the stand and then come over.
Yeah.
So that was great,
Brand recognition. Yep.
Yeah, brand recognition, or just like, there he is. And there aren't very many orange stands around. It's one of the things Maria said. Oh, I don't know why, because Oscar designed my logo ages ago before the channel. And I said, why did he choose orange? And I'm just like, yeah, but hardly anybody else uses orange. And it's a very high impact. It's similar to red. Red, white, and black together are very high impact, very high contrast. A certain, rather fringe party use those colors, in the 30s and 40s, and it's very effective. That color combination is really good. Orange has the advantage of it also has that same impact, but it's less common. So kind of, if you see an orange thing, likelihood is, it's probably going to be me. So that's nice. Yeah, so it was great to see people. It was great to catch up with Moss. It was great to catch up with, finally meet Luke in person, go out for a curry with a bunch of people, see Sully again, say catch up with Phil briefly, and just see a load of people, either that I've seen before. Dave, I know I've seen quite a few times now. He's come into the shop. Others that have seen a video and came and introduced themselves. That was fantastic. So, and I'd love to be there next year as a trader as well, to do the same thing, perhaps with a little bit more experience and a sack truck and somebody else to help me. Here's a good one from Dave, Dutch Dave. Hey, John, what was the most inspiring model you saw at Telford?
Oh, my gosh. Dave, do you mean built? Like the one I saw, or the kit?
I think that was the implication.
Yeah. A lot of video. I took a lot of pictures. I saw some great sci-fi. I saw some great World War I planes. I saw some great figures, some great tanks. There was a Wallace and Gromit, the car. That it's sort of like a bluish. Dude, that was so cool. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, Dave. I saw a lot of them. I'd have to go through and look at what I saw to pick one.
I think that's probably the bit I missed most, actually, because buying kits for me at Telford is, it's nice to do. It's nice to pick up. Again, I was really pleased that I managed to get the bullfinches. That made me happy. The Overtrees I've mainly picked up because I've got a few projects that kind of in mind for them. And there was one other kit that I got. John will have seen it.
Nice.
Which is this?
Yeah, nice.
The Dragon E100. But unusually, and the reason that I got it very, very cheap is because it's been mostly built. So it still has all the tracks to do, and it has the side armor to put on, but things like the turret, for instance, it has photo etch, so you can see there's photo etch on the barrel there and stuff. But that's fine because whoever's built it has made a really nice job of it. So I'm going to actually use this for some painting and weathering video stuff. So I really like the late war super heavy tanks. Impractical as they were, Hitler's wonder weapons. You can see.
I did the amusing hobby E100.
Yeah,
thing is massive.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's been nicely done, and a few more bits and bobs on it, and then I can do some nice painting and weathering stuff for the channel on that. So it was very specific, but for me, I don't really go to Telford anymore to buy kits. I mean, because obviously I can get things from the shop through the shop if I need to, and odd rare stuff. I do go to shows, and the local shows are often quite good for picking those up. Because quite a lot of the secondhand traders are at those things. So, that's not so much the thing for me. Really, seeing what other people have built, that inspirational part, the competition and some of the club stands. For me, the primary thing is meeting people these days, I think. So anyway, we are past 2 hours now. So thank you for all of those. We had quite a full room tonight, which is great. Great to see everybody. Thank you so much to everybody that came up and said hello at Telford. For those who didn't manage to get to Telford, if you can make it, I think it's well worth going. I mean, John's never been before and had a good time, said it was worth it coming from the States. So come on, guys, you don't really have an excuse. If John can make the effort, I'm sure everybody else can. But yeah, for me, it was great to meet you, John, and your daughter as well. Both lovely people. And yeah,
Same.
hopefully get to see you next year, right?
Yes.
Okay, everyone, thank you very much for turning up and watching us witter about Telford once more. Have a wonderful evening, a great rest of week, and catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.